Hey everybody, welcome to another Spotlight series with Total. Today I am joined by my very good friend Justin Dews, who's going to tell us a little bit about his history in the space, what he did as an MSP, what drove him, how he worked with the community, how the community influenced him, and how he's taken the community into his latest venture. So first off, let's just start with an intro. Justin, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, Ken. Well, thanks for having me today. I really appreciate the time and everything. So my name is Justin Dews. I've spent the last close to 15 years, I guess, in the MSP community. Previously with a company called TechVero, where we grew that from a break fix operation back in 2013 into a fairly well-known MSP in the Dallas Fort Worth area. Um, Exited, or we were acquired in 2021 and continued with the company, and then you know, throughout that time working in and out or working within the MSP community, I met just so many people that wanted to teach and help us and educate and help us learn how things operated, and we just immersed ourselves into the events, into all of the different ecosystems that were out there, and we just learned so much and got so much from everyone in the community. And I exited Techvera back in November of 24, November of last year, and took a little time off to try and figure out what it was that I wanted to do. And talked to a couple of individuals, talked to some people on the Total team and others, and started a new project called PathOpt. And PathOpt is kind of a blend of a couple of different business models, but ultimately what we are is we are an AI enablement firm for small businesses. So all of the businesses that we helped with the in the MSP world, all of the small business owners that we worked so well with over the years, what we're doing now is we are taking this wonderful new emerging technology called AI and helping them integrate that into their businesses. And that, whatever that might look like, it could be AI enabled workflows, it could be training and consulting, it could be custom integrations and things like that. But you know, ultimately, what we're looking to do is to take all of the things that we've learned from the MSP world and incorporate those into this new business. And so we really are an MSP adjacent offering, right? And we are looking to partner with MSPs out there who are getting questions from their customers about, what do I do with AI? How do I run these chatbots? Like, what's an agent? What's agentic AI? Like, how does all this operate? And we're really here to help give back to those who gave so much to us. So
So let me ask you this. There's so many AI experts in the space. It seems like to me it seems like people became AI experts the minute the word AI came out. And I definitely know that you struggled with this very identity when this all started to pop up and people were chatting about it. So I know you put the work in, but how do you separate yourself from the giant blob of people who are just using AI to sell? You know what I'm saying? And I feel like, you kind of said it that, you're going to help the MSPs and maybe become an extension of the MSPs team, which I think is really important and different than what some of these other AI folks are putting out there. So, can you maybe explain just a little bit of the differences between the folks that are just trying to sell or trying to benefit from AI as opposed to you using AI to benefit the MSPs?
yeah, absolutely, Ken. I think first and foremost, it's quite frankly, it's the reason why I'm on this Total series, right? We've also partnered with Total,
Right.
and so we are an active Total partner, and that we incorporate that into our offering, right? And so we are security first when we are thinking about what to help these customers with, how to put it into their organization to make sure they're not overexposing themselves. And if they do want to get into the AI world, we're making sure that all of the other areas are buttoned up before we start to put things out there. Everybody, there's a very large concern around security and privacy and compliance in the AI world. And what are the models used? What are the companies using for training? Is my customers' data going to be safe out there? What happens when I send the data to an API? And all those are valid concerns. And so we know that if we are exposing or possibly exposing different footprints and putting things out there, we want to make sure that holistically that customer is covered from a security and compliance standpoint, which is where we bring Total in. If there is a need for that level or to make sure that everything's kind of buttoned up. But really, I think also where we make our different is that we understand how the small businesses work. Me and my two business partners have all been in the MSP space for combined over 35, 40 years, right? We've all built and exited MSPs. And so, this journey we understand who the SMB customer is. We understand who operates them. We understand who leads them. We understand the unique challenges that they face. We understand that they are being bombarded by vendors and everyone all day, every day. We understand that they are oftentimes overworked. They're struggling to grow and to scale because they become the bottleneck in the business. And we've all experienced that as leaders in our own MSPs, right? We've become our own bottlenecks from time to time, where we have everyone in our team, we've maybe indirectly trained them that they all need to come to us for answers, right? And then we work so hard to untrain them that they didn't need to come to us for answers, and we gave them the tools and empowered our own team members to go out and do things on their own. And so really. Um, that's where we really can differentiate ourselves between some other AI enablement firm or an AI automation agency, whatever term you may want to use for the things that we do. Um, I think oftentimes some of them may have come from larger organizations. I see a lot of people that are starting these types of AI enablement firms that have been at Salesforce and AWS and Microsoft and HP. And while that's great, and I love that, and they've probably got ideas and things that they can take to larger orgs. Really, where our heart is and who we want to help is the smaller organization. And I think in order to have effective and confident conversations with those smaller organizations, you have to have lived that world and you have to be able to talk that language, right? And then one other differentiating point is, especially when it comes to working with MSPs, is that we came from an MSP. We
Right.
understand how you operate. We understand the unique challenges that you have. We understand that your customers might be asking you, how do I do this? How do I do that? What is AI? What should I use? Which model should I use? Should I go get ChatGPT? Should I use Claude? What is Gemini? How do I automate things? Like how do all these questions that you might be getting asked, and as an MSP, you want to help your customers. You want to be that beacon of knowledge, that person who understands, and you want to help advise them. But you may not be in a spot where you can go acquire the resources to build out this new business unit. Because we're not talking about doing mail migration projects or Azure migration projects or things that kind of run in the day-to-day world of IT operations. We're talking about a new business unit into the business, right? And it takes specialized knowledge and requirements for people, and it's hard. And I was actually talking to a business partner about a month or so ago about this. Like, had you come to me 3, 4, 5 years ago and said, here's this brand new technology, Justin, I want to start selling it, figure out how to deliver it, I would have freaked out.
Yeah.
I would have freaked out because I would have known that this new thing that we wanted to go sell would very much disrupt our day-to-day operations, and it would take people away from the help desk, from the projects and the pro serve that we were doing, and it would pull them into this new area. And it's like, well, first, do we have enough um, do we have enough people who are asking for it to actually pull a resource away so we can hire, and backfill a spot? Probably not, right? Because when you just start selling something new, you don't always have the demand for it.
Right.
And so oftentimes, if there were something out there that we were looking to do that wasn't in our sphere of knowledge, we would outsource that. We would look for another partner who understood how we operated, and we would go to that partner and say, "Can you help us do this?" Perfect example of that I think was, kind of when Pax8 started their whole ProServe team, right? Um, that was kind of like, oh, look at here, all these people understand what we do and they know how to do it, and so, but similar to that, you asked how we differentiate ourselves, and I hope I kind of encompassed that without rambling too much.
No, you did, and the other piece about, and obviously coming from an MSP myself and having these same struggles. The other part, and I'm seeing it more and more now from a cybersecurity standpoint, is I think as MSPs, we often think because we are technical and our people are technical that anything technical is their job.
Right.
And I feel like I see a lot of MSPs coming to me and saying, my techs don't know cybersecurity as well as they know some of the stuff that they're doing. And so, how do you take someone who's either not in that seat, doesn't want to be in that seat, or can't be in that seat? And so, there's already a struggle there from a cybersecurity standpoint. Now you got
Yep.
AI. So, from my standpoint, I agree with you 100%. I believe that you should do it exactly like you said. It's an outsourced piece. And if you're going to outsource it, why not have it be someone that would be an extension of your team, somebody who understands your business? And now you don't have to worry about resources. You don't have to worry about payroll. You don't have to worry about all the things that go along with new people to do this or splitting your team up and having them not be focused on the things they should be focused on. So I
Right.
do agree with that 100%. You went through this pretty well as far as the differentiator, but what are some of the biggest barriers preventing small businesses from even leveraging AI efficiencies?
Well, I think one of the largest ones is just lack of knowledge,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Lack of understanding what it can do. And I think um, for a lot of small business owners, their first introduction to AI is hopping on ChatGPT and typing in, write this email for me. And that's the only context that they give the model is to write this email for me with nothing else.
Right.
And so what you get back is probably nothing of what you intended it to do, right? And so um, to take the lack of knowledge thing further down the line is like, well, I think now that we've all used AI more and more, we understand the importance of the prompt and all of the context that we give the prompt and what we want ultimately the LLM to do, right? And how to operate and how to answer us back and what not to do. And so I think if the SMB owner goes and they fire up ChatGPT and hopefully they pay for a subscription and they don't just put stuff into the free model or the
Right.
free version of it. Um, I think what happens is they go and they're like, write this email, respond to this text message, look at this meeting, look at these meeting notes, and tell me what I missed, or that sort of thing. Um, and what they get back is not a great experience, right? Because they just don't know how to interact with the model. Now, I think as the models have matured as OpenAI and Anthropic and Google, the big three out there that are producing the commercial models, they've understood that this chat wrapper that they are putting their consumers in has to be sometimes smarter than the consumer as to what their intentions are now. So I think even with like the reasoning models and things out there, it's that's trying to ask more questions about, well, what exactly is it you're doing? So with the lack of knowledge, I think oftentimes when small business owners think about AI, they immediately think this is going to be too expensive for us.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to afford it. Um, what happens if it breaks? And I think the expense thing is an interesting topic to kind of to lean in on for a minute because you can do so much with the very low cost tools that we have available to us right now today. What it's kind of what Total did with IT security when you guys first emerged in 2018, 2019, 2020. 2020 is when we adopted Total and became a partner and took off from there. But what always um, was most influential for us about Total is that you took these enterprise tools, these platforms that would that others were doing for enterprise that were just out of scope from a cost perspective, and you brought them down to the SMB world at a cost that was consumable to the SMB owner. It wasn't going to be this exorbitant expense to do these things, right? We could do them now in a cost-effective way, but still give the same protection that the enterprises were getting. And I think AI over the last couple of years has done exactly that. They've taken this machine learning and things that was very expensive for the enterprises to put in, and they've brought these models down, consumerized them, and made them um, have built them in such a way that now we can use them at a very low price point. And so, what I often tell the business owners is like, this is not super expensive. We're talking, you know, for what it would cost you to do an email migration project, you can put an AI agent in your business. And for what it would cost you to maintain those Microsoft licenses every month, it will cost you that to have this AI agent, whatever it might be, whatever use case you want for it, to operate that within your business every month. And so we're not talking about, $100,000 project and $5,000 a month. We're talking about what could be a $5,000 to $10,000 project and a, $250 to $500 a month, right? And so that right there helps. I think also what I hear a lot is, well, how do I know the AI is not going to go crazy and start just firing off dumbass to my customers, right? And it's a legit concern, right? Because we have all heard the stories of AI hallucinating and just going off the rails. But I think there is a way, and I know there is a way that you can give it guardrails and say this is within the parameters that you can operate. And there are things that we can do nowadays to lower the chances of it going off the rails. And I think the stories that we've heard of are probably a year or so, maybe, or maybe 6 months, ago. And I don't know exactly what context they were put into operation, but we've all heard the stories, and it's a legit concern. But I do understand that now there are guardrails and things that we can help put in place to keep that from happening. So, those are the big three that I hear. The other thing that I hear quite a bit is anytime I go to a uh, some sort of business function where there's a lot of business owners there, and I have my shirt on, and they see AI, and that just draws them to me, right? And they're like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Well, I do AI enablement for small businesses, so I help small businesses, integrate AI into operations." And they're like, "Oh man, AI. So, can I just like completely redo my sales process and like all my operations?" And they immediately go into this boil the ocean mode, right? And what I've been learning to do, what I have learned to do, and the same thing with IT operations, is let's bring it down to a level that we can kind of both talk um, about in a way that we're not going to try and boil the ocean. So oftentimes what I will say to them is like, what are the 3 to 5 things you do every week that if you could hire one or a team of really smart interns to just do those things over and over again, what would you have them do? And that right there gets them thinking. They're like, oh, yeah, man, it's like this thing where I have to take this data from this PDF and stick it over in this form over here. Or, man, if I could just get someone to write 80% of my emails and I could just go fill, so that gets them kind of out of that boil the ocean mode and more into uh, a palpable thing that they can understand and put in. And from there, we can always build off of it, right? It's not a one and done type thing. We can put a solution in that's a very low hanging fruit type situation and then build off that.
So, talking about all that, how do you see the current state of AI adoption among SMBs that MSPs serve?
Yeah, so I think everyone wants, so what I see is there's a lot of excitement around it. And I think having the right conversation and asking the right questions will get people thinking about things they may not have thought about for a while. So other conversation starters that I use, Ken, are, have you ever had maybe two disconnected platforms and you're like, God, I just wish if these two things just talk to one another, like that would be really cool. Like it would just take an hour or two out of my workflow every week if these just two systems talk to one another. Um, I think when you start to give them little nuggets of what is capable, they start to go down this whole mindset of that they have of like, oh yeah, there's this thing and that thing and whatever. And so when you bring it back down to a level that they can start to understand of real business processes in their business that they know are broken, and that you have a solution that can help fix those or give them time back, well, now they're open to talk, right? Because you talk to a small business owner, and if you say, hey, I can help you increase your margins, I can help you increase your revenue, and I can give you time back, they're ready to speak. They want to know what you got, right? And so I think that's when we can bring it down to a level that they can start to see how it would work within their own business, we start to see those adoption rates go way up. And also, what helps with the adoption rate is that they're not going to have to spend $50,000 on a project, right? That also helps because, I do get those questions. Well, how much is it going to be? And I bracket them in a, type of conversation type situation. And it's okay. Yeah, I can get along with that, you know? Um, but I think, from the MSP perspective, from the MSPs that I've talked to, oftentimes, if they're doing TBRs regularly with their customers, they may not know the questions to ask or how to guide that conversation when a customer does bring it up. I have heard of some MSPs out there who just completely squash the conversation the minute the two letters AI come up. Like, oh no, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And we've heard those stories, and I've experienced it, right? We've also got MSPs out there who are open to having the conversation, but they may not take the conversation out completely because they just don't know how they would fulfill the project or the request from the customer,
Yeah.
right? So there's that as well. And so I think we're getting better about having the conversations. And I think as we continue to do that, we're going to see that adoption rate go up and up and up. Because quite frankly, the SMBs do want to talk about it. Don't get it twisted. They want help and they know that AI can help them in some form or fashion. They may not know exactly what it is, but they know that there's this new technology that can help them get ahead, help them scale, help them compete with their larger competitors.
What makes this great is MSPs have been looking for a way to be more sticky with their customers and their partners, or and what a great way to go into a conversation when you're talking about business outcomes instead of tech, 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 tech. That's all they hear. So when you think about something this cool that can take business issues and turn them into positive business outcomes, it gives you an opportunity to have a better conversation in my eyes. And I feel like when you're talking about that, that's your foot in the door. And then sure, we're going to protect it with all this tech and we're going to do all this stuff in the background that you probably don't care about. But this is what it's going to do. So I want to switch gears just a little bit because you mentioned, the relationship with Todyl, cybersecurity, and I don't, we don't want to make this about Todyl, but what specific security challenges do AI implementations create for small businesses? Where are those problems lying, and that which made this, a first step for you to be able to have this relationship with Total from a cybersecurity perspective with AI?
Yeah, I think the one of the most glaring areas where I see a need for having shoring up the cybersecurity is around um, hardening or at least visibility into the platforms that we're going to use when we build integrations, right? And so let's just take an email agent, for example. An agent, AI agent who is going to sit in the background. It's going to review incoming emails as they come through. It's going to analyze sentiment, urgency, ask, request, whatever might be in there, and then it's going to create copy of a draft of an email back to this person. Well, first and foremost, I have to make sure that that email platform is being secured or is at least being monitored, and the things that are happening within that platform are are being looked at. They have some sort of SIM solution, right? Where everything, all the actions and events of that platform are being monitored so that if, you know, God forbid, there was already some sort of incident that happened or some sort of um, security related item that that email platform had already been compromised. And then now we take this thing, we put this AI into it, and then the threat actor understands, oh, there's something here that I might be able to manipulate in a way. Well, we need to, we need to know that that platform already has some sort of thing going on, right? Um, and then, increasingly, there's other platforms, not just email, that a business owner may want to introduce. And maybe we want to take files that are being dropped into Dropbox, and we want to take those PDFs, and we want to run them through some sort of AI agent and extract the data from a PDF, and then take that data and plop it into another system or put it into an email. Well, now I need to make sure that the Dropbox environment is being monitored, right? Because now I'm exposing another system to outbound or third-party integrations, and we need to know what's happening in that system. And so that's the largest area of concern, and where we use Total to be able to put over the top of everything and just monitor all the events and logs and of actions that are going on these platforms so that if by chance something were to happen, we can identify it very quickly and turn off what we need to turn off, go in and remediate what we need to remediate, bring in another team, whatever it is that we need to do, right? Um, but Ken, I'll be quite honest with you, there are small businesses that I've gone to talk to who have wanted to do these projects and they're gung ho about them. They want, small teams, 10, 15 people. They want to do these email agents and automation and things like that. And I've had record scratch moments in the conversation because, well, what are you using for security? And they're like, huh? Like, well, what are you using to secure your endpoints and to monitor your email platform? They're like, I think some of our endpoints are running, some sort of antivirus. You think, or I'm like, oh, we're not sure. Well, do you have an MSP partner? Oh no, it's so and so. He does our technology. So there's, and it almost shocked me a little bit, because I'm like, wow, there are still small businesses out here who are still experiencing the same things that we had been talking to small businesses about 10 years ago. And they're still living it out. And now they're trying to get into this AI world. And like, I had to stop the conversation. I'm like, we're not talking anymore about AI. We're going to secure your platform, your endpoints, your environments before we do anything else. Because I'm not going to bring in this new technology without there being any sort of um, fundamental security going on, right? I'm just not going to do it. And so, yeah, I think the big thing from an AI integration standpoint is just making sure that the platforms that we are having talked to one another are all being watched and looked at and all that. But uh, there are times where we have to go back to the fundamentals and talk about just EDR and MDR and identity management and yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, the identity also is making sure that the identity is secured and that if we have people logging in from different places or we are using identities within the platform to build the integrations, we just got to make sure that all that's being looked at and all that's there are the watchers on the wall are making sure that nothing bad is going on in that environment.
Right. So take it a step further. How do you address data privacy concerns when SMBs start using AI tools?
Well, I think first and foremost, I talked about it earlier, is like, well, don't go to a free chat GPT and start putting your customer data in there. Like let's just be honest, right? But I think this is an interesting topic that I've thought about. And I think there is a level of trust that you have to have, the same level of trust that we have with Microsoft and with Google, that, when they say that our email is secure on their platforms, we trust them that it is going to be secure, right? Now, it's secure to the point where they can secure the data in their data centers. They can't secure the end user from doing something dumb and
Right.
allowing an attacker in, right? But ultimately, we trust that our data is secure within their data centers and that no one's going to get their hands on it. And I think, with the big companies like OpenAI and Anthropic and Google, if you're using their paid subscriptions or you're using their APIs to make calls, they all have um, data privacy settings that you can set on the back end, right? They all have retention rates you can set. Um, they all state that they're not going to do anything with your data when you send it to them, right? They're not going to use it to train new models so long as you have the settings done properly, because there is, even in a paid GPT subscription, you can turn off the data privacy, right? So you would give ultimately OpenAI the ability to use your data for model training. There was even a time, I don't know if they still do it, but there was a time where OpenAI was giving you free API tokens if you allowed them to use your data to train, right? So they were giving, and if you didn't know to go in there and look at it, you could have been inadvertently giving your data to OpenAI and then not being charged for the API tokens because they were then using your data to train their models, right? So I think it's, having someone who understands where to look and to make sure that the privacy and compliance settings are configured properly is of utmost importance. Because I think there's also going to be situations where you have small businesses who have a technical mind on their team, and maybe that technical mind, their role isn't to go build AI solutions, but their role might be to manage inventory or to manage the CRM system or the ERP system, or and like they understand how the technology works, and there might be a spot where that person goes out because the business owner has said, "Hey, man, you're smart. You know how to do these things. I've heard about this cool technology. Like, go figure out how we can make our CRM system talk to our email system." And if that person goes out and starts to build these things but doesn't know where to look, well, then that's also could be opening up Pandora's box for the SMB owner, and they don't know it, right? And so I think kind of going back to the original question, just making sure that we talk about this from a data perspective as well. Um, if you don't have good data, you don't have structured data, just putting that data into some AI solutions probably not going to be the best bet. You're probably not going to get back what you want to get back out of it, right? And so I would say the same thing for the security and compliance and privacy part of it as well. If you don't have your own house in order
Mm-hmm.
from a security and compliance or data privacy perspective, we probably ought not go start looking at integrating these other third-party solutions that will just open up our footprint, right? It will expand our footprint. And so that's, again, go back to the conversations that I have when I work with MSPs who I know for a fact that all of their customers are compliant, secure. I work with MSPs who are, getting into the whole CMMC space, and so I know that their base customers, who may or may not use Total, but
Mm-hmm.
ultimately they use some sort of configuration of tools where they've got these things handled. I'm not overly concerned. I do double check just to make sure that they've got everything turned on that we need to have turned on. But when I go into an SMB where I don't know if they do or do not have an MSP, it is one of the first conversations that we have, because the conversation cannot continue about anything else until we clean up our own side of the street.
Good one. Good line. Okay, so let's start looking towards trends. Where do you see the intersection of MSPs, cybersecurity, and AI heading?
Yeah, so I think with MSP specifically, what I think a lot of MSPs are looking for is like, how do I automate my tickets? How do I automate my triage process? How do I use AI to be my dispatcher? Right? Which I think is great. I think that's a great goal to have. Um, I would say we go back to that whole structured data situation. Like if your tickets aren't, if they don't have any sort of structure to them, if you don't require your team members to enter time on everything, if you don't have tickets for everything, then I don't know how you're going to effectively train or get the AI to do what you want it to do, because ultimately it has to understand how you've answered tickets in the past to be able to help you answer tickets in the future. You have to give it knowledge. You've got to give it training. Um, so I think there's a lot around that. There you have the idea of the SMBs coming to the MSPs asking for AI solutions. And again, I think what's going to happen is what I hope happens is, I mean, we all know that there are still MSPs out there that think that IT security is a back of the line thing. We're gonna answer your tickets, we're gonna get all these things done for you, but you know, maybe we don't spend enough time on making sure your platforms are secure, right? Maybe I don't think, maybe the MSP doesn't think that I need to sell a full SIM, EDR, MXDR solution and identity management solution to the end user, right? So what I hope happens is that as this conversation of integrating AI into the SMB operations and even the MSP operations, that puts a spotlight on, and I hope that other vendors out there or partners are saying to these MSPs, I'm not going to integrate these things into your systems until I know that we have some sort of secure platform looking at everything that's going on. I would hope that that happens. I can't guarantee it's going to happen, but I would hope that that happens. I think that there's just too much risk now um, with the ability for people to possibly inject things into the AI operations or to get a hold of a platform that then has AI integrated into it and then take that and leapfrog off of that. So I would hope that the kind of the overlapping of MSPs and IT security and I hope it puts all of it just aligns all of it even more, right? And I would hope that the MSP owners out there who are thinking about doing this start with the fundamentals and then work their way up into doing the AI thing. Because I mean, I would, man, there we've all heard the stories about other large companies out there who have had their platforms compromised, right? And those threat actors will use that compromised platform of the large organization to then run a large scale uh, destruction campaign on all of the customers that are out there. And man, I can't imagine what would happen if that was also tied into some sort of AI system, and then that the threat actor could then not only compromise the management platform, but then also use that AI system to just inject more destruction on more people, right? So yeah, so I think that's my hope is where it goes. I hope that this it aligns the IT security conversation even more, and that MSPs are they get a little bit more serious about making sure that their own houses are cleaned up. Because I think also too, what we've seen, Ken, I think you've probably seen it as well, is like, well, an MSP is great about securing their customers, but when you start opening the page of their book,
Mm-hmm.
may not be as nice and tidy as it should be.
Yeah, I agree with that one. It's the cobbler's son has no shoes
Yeah,
mentality, right? And you have to make sure your house is in order for a number of reasons. And you know this story, Justin. I had it happen to me where I had a tech on site and he was installing a piece of software, and then they ran into a problem. And in front of the customer, he said, "Oh, we don't use this, so I'm gonna have to do some research." It's like, oh, what I put them in that position, so I didn't blame the tech per se.
right.
But then I realized, what are we doing? We shouldn't be installing anything out there that's not in our office, that we're not using ourselves. We should be smart enough about that piece. And it took something stupid like that happening, right? It's not like I had some epiphany. It was, someone said something and then all of a sudden you realize it. So yes, you should always have your house in order and make sure that the technology that you're implementing out to your customers is already in place, and it makes it easier to talk about. Yes, we use this in house. It does all of this for us, and we're trying to do the same for you. That same mentality makes perfect sense.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, what advice would you give MSPs who are hesitant about AI adoption?
Well, I think I heard an interesting quote. It's been about 2 months, I think, since I heard this. Um, but someone said, if you're not at the AI table, you're going to be on it.
Yeah, I
And,
like that.
and so, and I say that in a jokingly way, in a joking way. But I do think there is a bit of seriousness to
Hmm.
that quote, right? And the fact that I understand that when new technologies come out, there is buzz around them, and there's this everyone's running to the new buzzword in how can we sell this solution, and I understand that, and rightfully so. There are a lot of MSP owners out there who are hesitant to just jump on that bandwagon, and I get it. I 100% get it. Um, but I would say that this genie is not being put back in the bottle.
Hmm.
It's not going anywhere, right? Whether the AI technology and explosion um, does all the things that some out there are saying it's going to do with this as fast as it's going to kind of
Right,
rewrite the global economies and things. I don't know that we're going to get to that point that quickly.
right.
But I do know that enough people are talking about it to where even a small business owner will get a hint of it. They will hear of their peers using it in some form or fashion. They will understand um, how they might be able to use it to help them in their own businesses. Uh, just save some time, maybe do some things a little bit more efficiently operationally. And so I would say that, and we've seen this with other technologies, that your SMB customers are going to use it whether you like it or not. They're going to find a way to do it. And so I would want to be that advisor to them that is helping them and guiding them and how to harness this new technology in the right way, right? I wouldn't bury my head in the sand. Um, I don't know that I would just come up with excuses as to why I didn't want to do it. I don't, nothing wrong with being hesitant and wanting to do your research and understand how you might want to get into it. Maybe you want to dip your toe in the water first, and you don't want to go into full agentic AI, but you might understand that maybe I can build a custom GPT for someone that might help them do some things that doesn't expose a lot of their data. But I would say at least start looking into it. At
Yeah,
least start understanding how your customers are going to ask about it. And it doesn't like my whole thing with like automating the MSP stuff was like there was, we've been hearing about that for like the last 3, 4, 5 years of like, well, how do we automate all the processes within the MSP? And I was never overly keen on that. I was always like, well, how can I automate my customers' processes? How can I get more sticky with them? How can I increase my revenue by doing these cool things with my customers, right?
right.
Um, and so, when I say go out there and understand how it operates, how to use it, things like that, I'm saying that from the perspective of understand how your customers are going to use it. Ask your peers, hey guys, what are your customers doing? How are you using it? Are you letting them adopt it in a way that is beneficial to everyone? Are you kind of tiptoeing around it? But don't just bury your head in the sand. Absolutely not. I don't think that's the right strategy at all. Because again, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's
And it's just more and more people are just going to more and more uh, small business owners and entrepreneurs are going to want to take advantage of it. And we got to be, and the MSPs out there, and myself included, having still have that mindset of being an IT services provider, um, we got to understand how to do it. So
yeah, you want to be on that cutting edge, not the bleeding edge.
yeah, correct,
And you don't
correct.
want to not be on the edge at all. So you have to finding that line, right? Of hey, we don't need to jump in because it's the new buzzword, but you also don't want to not jump in at all, especially with this and the fact that this is a very unique opportunity because most of your end users are already dabbling with this. It was the fastest growing, thing to pop up because everybody was using it. It wasn't just oh, it's in the tech world, and now we're going to go out to customers and try to sell it. No, the customers are already using it and playing
Yes.
with it. Now we have to
Yes.
protect them from themselves in some cases, but and show them what's the right way to use it and what's the what's the wrong way to use it. So we're
So there
coming
was
up.
another quote out there that I saw, and I'm not gonna cite the gentleman on this conversation just because I didn't get his permission to, but I did see this quote, and it was basically uh, kind of a statement about, to the IT guys out there that are telling their clients not to use AI because of the security risks.
Yeah,
Let me pose the following point to you. The risk of cyber attacks is significant. Most of these have nothing to do with AI. Um, there is a risk of some data leakage or proprietary data or PII being used in AI that could escape. There is a risk of that. On the one hand, you have the risk of feeding PII or proprietary IP to an AI model. But much like search history, it gets exposed at some point, maybe cost you some money. But on the other hand, you have the risk from your competitors, which are now completing 100 times as much work as at half the cost, completely crushing your business in the next 6 months. And so, while yes, there are some risks, understand those risks, understand how to mitigate them as best as possible, but just don't say, I'm not going to do it.
you're